Hello and welcome to today's Postgrad Insight session, which today will be focusing on the Cheapening Scholarship, but this week we'll bring you a series of webinar sessions brought to you by different universities with different themes, trying to educate you on all the best things to do whilst in the UK, in and around Europe, and the best universities to study at. It goes without saying that we are sending all our love and best wishes to all of the royal family at this very difficult time, and everyone affected around the globe because of the death of Her Majesty the Queen.
So we get started with what are Cheapening scholarships. They're the UK government's global scholarship programme. It's been funded by the Foreign Office and partner organisations. It's been running for, I think this next year is our 40th anniversary. So it's been running for a good long while now. And it's available in over 160 countries and territories. They're meant to be supporting one-year master's degrees in any subject at any UK university. Right, so Cheapening scholars are part of a prestigious network of aspiring leaders and influencers. And in this short video, you can hear from them about why they think others should apply for Cheapening.
The thing I've enjoyed the most about Cheapening is definitely meeting people. They're incredibly diverse, meeting people from different countries, different walks of life, from different fields, and all coming together to change the world.
We spend time with each other, share our experiences, the skills that we gained, and the knowledge that we learned from our respective programs.
So it has been an awesome experience for me, not just making friends, but also learning from world-class experts at the University of Birmingham.
The scholarship program has helped me achieve one, I think, is confidence in myself to do what I want to do, to be able to build projects that can help more people.
I've been able to have a lecturer who is working deep in areas of geography in children and youth, something that I would not have gotten if I was still at home.
As a student studying international relations, now I understand further about government, how the international system works and functions, and the areas of where I can help.
The scholarship has helped me to achieve one of my long-lasting goal, which is to obtain my master's in clinical pharmacology at one of the best universities which I could have imagined to complete it from.
I'm incredibly grateful to be able to study this degree, which I wouldn't have been able to otherwise.
If you identify yourself as a young leader who is aspiring to make a significant change in your country, whether at the local level, community level, even at the world at large, Chevening is a scholarship I recommend you to apply for.
Once you graduate as a Cheapener, you always become a Cheapener. And I think that's the main core thing.
Join us!
Join us!
Join us.
Join us!
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
Join us. Join us.
So there you get, you've heard why they think you should apply, but who should apply? So no two Cheapening scholars share the same background of characteristics, but they all share a passion for creating positive change in their home countries. We're looking for people who are good at building relationships, who have leadership qualities, are resilient and determined, and have good defined short, mid and long-term career goals. Cheapening scholars, generally speaking, rise to prominent positions in their countries and their chosen fields after their graduation. So we're very much looking for the leaders of tomorrow, so to speak. And just another quick video to talk you through our eligibility criteria, because there are various stipulations, as you can imagine. So let's watch this quickly. So just to reiterate that, it's you need to have 2 years of work experience, an undergraduate degree, and be living in a Cheapening eligible country, which is over 160 countries. There, it's all available on our website to check and clarify whether you're in one of those. So next, what does a Cheapening scholarship cover? So you get your tuition fees fully covered unless you're studying an MBA, in which case there is a cap of 22,000, because I think MBAs can go up and up and up. You get your stipend, so your living allowance at a set rate for one individual. You'll get an economy return flight to the UK, and additional grants to cover essential expenditure. So most of your expenses on a kind of basic level will be taken care of by the scholarship. But, you know, that's not all. It's not all just financial. So as a Cheapening scholar, you'll be invited to take part in exclusive networking events, trips across the UK, and volunteering opportunities. We also run things through the year for scholars to get to know each other, like the Cheapening treasure hunt, where scholars are divided into 2 teams and they've got to go and find things across the UK. But the idea being that you're meant to be forming these bonds with each other so that you end up with a kind of international network of contacts after the scholarship ends. There's also a prize for the winning team. So yeah, there's that. Once you graduate after your Cheapening scholarship, you'll become a Cheapening alumni. And the community here is another one of the huge benefits of being a Cheapening scholar. There are over 50,000 Cheapening alumni from all corners of the world, made up of skilled professionals working in a range of sectors. So some of them are helping to tackle climate change, others are championing gender equality, and lots work in journalism, business, law, and many other fields. So there's not one field that we're particularly interested in. It's just anywhere that there's kind of change, positive change to be made. So the application and selection timeline happens over the course of around 9 months. So on the slide, you can see the timeline. Applications tend to open in August and close in November. So yeah, this year they're closing on the 1st of November. And interviews take place between February and April, and then you find out if you've been successful by June, but it can be earlier than that. It just depends how things work in country. Successful applicants will start arriving in the UK the following, like, September, October. So yeah, the whole process takes roughly 9 months. But first, yes, you need to know how to apply for a Cheapening scholarship. So we have a whole page dedicated to this on our website with all the kind of information about eligibility, timelines, and the online application system, which is available on our website. So make a note of that. Although if you go to the homepage of our website, it's all saying apply everywhere, so shouldn't have too much trouble. And this is a kind of example of, if you choose to apply, you'll be asked to complete our online application form, and these are the 4 key skills we're looking for from you. So the leadership and influencing, which I mentioned earlier, where you should be using clear examples to demonstrate your leadership and influencing skills. Studying in the UK is why that means something to you, why you're choosing to study in the UK. How is your experience relevant to your chosen course, and how those choices will help you achieve your career goals. We want to see networking, which is where you're thinking about how you're going to build your professional network while you're in the UK. I mean, I know that the treasure hunt thing that I mentioned sounds, you know, just fun and silly, but it's that kind of will to turn that into a kind of proper connection with these people who might also go on to great things, and showing that you're interested in building those connections is very important on the application form. And then explain your career plan, like show that you're not just kind of at a loose end and thinking you might as well get a master's degree in the UK. Like, what are your short, mid and long-term career goals? How will you achieve them, and how will they benefit your home country? Because I think you always need to bear in mind that it's the positive social impact that kind of ties it all together. So when you're completing your online application form, make sure that you are focusing on these main 4 things, and you can't go wrong. So I'm just going to finish by sharing our social media handles. It's a really good place to kind of stay updated, get a kind of sense of what the scholars who are here currently are getting up to over their year in the UK, and give you kind of a bit of a flavour of what it might be like if you came here. And it's also just where we post about applications opening, closing, reminders, that kind of thing. So definitely worth checking in on from time to time. But I think that's largely all from me.
Thank you, Marina. Really insightful. Great. Love that. So at this stage, we'd like to invite our podcast listeners onto the session. Now, we have just engaged with a webinar with Cheapening scholarships. I've got Marina, representative at Cheapening, with me today. Marina, what I want to talk about really is the application process. You mentioned there about the timeline. It takes roughly 8 to 9 months to enroll and get on the course and come to the UK. Is there any way of speeding that process up, or is it just that's how long it takes? Because there will be loads of people that will put in their application and will go, right, I want to know if I'm in. And inevitably, that is the right thing to do. I'd be the same. But is there any way you can speed it up? Is there any advice you can give the applicant to make sure that they can help things go as smoothly as possible?
I mean, there's definitely ways that you can make sure it goes as smoothly as possible. We always struggle a bit with applications coming in at the last minute. So as I mentioned, for this cycle, the applications close on the 1st of November at midday. The number of people that will be submitting their applications at 11:55 on the 1st of November it's extraordinary, and it does cause the system to crash often, which means that applications don't go through. So I'd say the first and cardinal rule of making sure your application goes smoothly is submitting like a week before. Don't leave it to the last minute, because you're just running the risk of technical hitches ruining your application. But beyond that, I'm afraid it does tend to take as long as it takes, because you've got, say, on average about 60,000 applications per year, and it goes through various stages. Like, people will read your application, then you'll be kind of assessed and sifted, and then you'll be called to interview, and that's like several months down the line. I think interviews tend to take place from February. So then from that, it kind of depends on how quickly your in-country embassy moves. So you can hear from April, say, so that would be 5 months rather than 9.
Yeah.
But it is a long process, and it's just because a lot of the people who apply are extraordinary individuals, and it takes time to pass them and find them.
For sure. I want to keep on the application path. There's a couple of questions that have come in, and then I want to ask a question myself as well. So the first question is, do you have to be living in the country that you apply or you're registered from? There will be a lot of people that, let's say, are traveling, or their residence is in one country, but they're actually living in another country at the moment. Does that impact it? And likewise, if they're in the UK already, and they're of a certain nationality of one of the eligible countries, can they still apply?
As I understand it, if you're a citizen of an eligible country and you are registered as a resident there, traveling won't impact your application. I think if you've been a resident of a different country for a certain amount of time, that might potentially start to impact it, but I would direct you to the website to make sure and look at our FAQs, because there'll be some very firm information in there about what's valid. But no, if you're traveling but you're a citizen of an eligible country, that won't impact your chances at all.
Excellent. And for those that have asked, the likes of Maria and Hema, do go to their website, have a little look, head over to Postgrad as well. There's plenty of information surrounding the Cheapening scholarship there as well. One question that's coming again is, do you have to pass an Ielts exam only, or is Toefl acceptable? Obviously, the English language requirement is going to be right up there, but can we discuss that?
Yeah, actually, Chevening no longer has an English language requirement.
Okay.
So it's because most universities that you'll be applying to do. So that is very much dependent on what the university you're applying to. You'll have to meet their stipulations to get onto their course. But if you meet those, then Cheapening itself no longer has an English language requirement, because I think the decision was taken that if, you know, the English was good enough for the university, it's good enough for us.
Absolutely, yes. And you are spot on there. Nearly every university for international students now, the cohort is quite high. And they do require the Ielts or the Toefl test. There's many other tests like Pearson's out there as well. So again, I would advise whoever asked that question to head over to Postgrad, head over to Cheapening, and find out more information around that. Other things that weren't really mentioned on the presentation earlier were references. You spoke about the timeline and what you can put on your application to help. Do references help? Are they required from an employment and from an educational sense?
So we recommend that you do include 2 references roughly on your application form. Those should be from someone who can speak to your kind of quality. So you're someone from an academic background or a professional background. So not like your mum, somebody that's that is objectively kind of giving kind of credence to your abilities. You can find, we have a whole references guidance page for more detailed information, but essentially you do need to upload 2 reference letters to the online application system by the relevant deadline, which does change each year. So I'd again advise you to check the website for an exact date for that. But the British Embassy or High Commission may contact your referees for verification. So make sure that they're people that can be reached. And yeah, I mean, I can't say to what extent a referee can, have a huge impact on your application. But I would say that a glowing reference from somebody who has worked with you in the past is only going to aid your case.
Absolutely. Okay, and in terms of the actual courses and the universities that you're partnered with and you're aligned with, are there any courses that you've got more chance of getting than others? I know you mentioned earlier about the MBA having a cap in terms of what obviously you help with and financial aid, but are there any courses, let's say a university that isn't as high in the rankings as others, let's say Oxford or Cambridge, if you was to go to a different university, does that help your application?
Well, I think that you need to see kind of Cheapening as being like relatively separate from the university application process. So if you are applying for, you have to apply for these universities just as you would if you weren't applying for a Cheapening scholarship. That's a kind of a separate entity, because with Cheapening what you're really applying for is like the funding and the kind of access to the network and the experience overall. But access to the universities, you are still going through their application system. So yes, I mean, it's obviously going to be much harder to get into Oxford and Cambridge than it is, any other university, which is the same for anyone. But in terms of your Cheapening application, I wouldn't say that any university would make you more likely to be accepted as a Cheapening scholar than any other. It's more about the kind of your reasoning behind it and the narrative you craft and the, why do you want to go to Strathclyde to study computer programming? It's because Strathclyde's the best for computer programming and you really want to be able to make a difference with that in your own country. So on the Cheapening side of things, it's kind of more about the why. Yes. If that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, it makes sense to you and I, but obviously people listening, if you're not sure, please head over to the Cheapening website, ask questions, contact Marina and their team, and they'll be happy to help. In terms of the application process then, so a student's gone on, they have applied for a Cheapening scholarship and they've not been successful. Can they reapply within the same year, the next year? Do they get feedback? What happens there?
So yes, we really encourage people to reapply, because there's like I say, there's 60,000 applications. On average, we accept say 1,600 scholars per year. That in no way means that 44,000 applicants weren't good enough. Like absolutely not. And also, you know, people will then go away and have another year of work experience and like firm up their ideas. So being rejected on 1 year for a Cheapening scholarship in no way means that you're, you know, not going to get it the following year or the year after. So you can apply consecutively as many years as you like. And we do really encourage that, because, you know, a lot of people out there are absolutely incredible, and just because they didn't make it 1 year doesn't mean they won't make it the next. In terms of feedback, it's relatively unlikely that you will get any due to the volume and of applications that we are sifting. I think you can request it, but it's not something that we kind of offer as like part of the course.
Absolutely. And again, it's all part of probably life experience, you know, being not back, coming back and going again, and that satisfaction when you hopefully do one day get accepted and you enroll within the scholarship award. So anyone watching that has, you know, been refused, or, you know, it's not worked for them that year, I do encourage you to apply again and keep going. If you're not sure where you want to study, postgrad.com does actually power the search on the Cheapening website. So head over to the Cheapening website, head over to find a course, and look for the courses that you want to study. It might not be that, you know, you've heard of a certain university. It might be that you've not heard of a certain course. So head over there and find out more information. Marina, just a few more questions before we wrap things up. Do the financial records of one get taken into consideration? Is there any kind of financial input here, or is it purely educational?
As I understand it, it is purely educational. Like, you're able to apply to this no matter what your background or your financial situation. It's a scholarship, you know, based on your ability and your intentions for what you're going to do with that education, rather than a means tested scholarship.
Yes, of course. And in terms of, you know, when you're over here, you've come over, let's say August, September time, what is the general feel in terms of Cheapening students? You've mentioned already about the activities that you guys do, about the treasure hunt, which sounds fantastic, by the way. So you mentioned that about bonding with the other Cheapening students. What is the atmosphere like within the camp in terms of other students? Do you keep in contact with them? Is the communication strong? What I'm getting at here, if you're an international student, it can feel a little bit lonely sometimes. You know, you come from different countries, you know, you might not speak the language great, you've never been to another country. What do you do to make them feel welcome?
So our big event kicks off the Cheapening scholarship year. So say you arrive in the kind of end of September, we have a big orientation event, as I'm sure that individual universities will also do, at the Excel Centre, which is absolutely huge for anyone who hasn't been there. And we essentially tailor that event with the kind of express intention of making sure that people are able to connect with people who are in their areas of the UK. People tend to, like, our scholars tend to be able to find their fellows from their home countries, which makes total sense, but that's not going to be particularly helpful if you're the only one in Scotland and the rest of them are in London. So the orientation event is kind of designed to try and make sure that you're finding other people who are going to be based in the same part of the UK as you for that year, either at the same university or just in the same area, so that you're building that kind of support network from the start. We also run a program of events through the year to make sure that kind of scholars are meeting each other, able to mix a bit more. But I mean, I would also say that on a kind of day-to-day basis, as you know, I can imagine that coming over as an international student could feel incredibly daunting. I think a lot of universities, like most universities, will have really great like pastoral care for that sort of thing. And while the Cheapening network hopefully will provide a backbone of feeling like you're part of a community from the moment you arrive, and we do make sure that we keep you up to date with like monthly newsletters and a lot of opportunities to connect. I think that taking advantage of your individual universities' support network is also probably a kind of vital day-to-day support structure.
For sure. And I'll finish it off with one final question. There'll be plenty of people listening and watching that will apply. We'll be going on the website, finding out more information. What happens with accommodation? You mentioned earlier on in your webinar presentation that there is kind of like a set menu to kind of choose from. What does a student need to do in terms of accommodation? Do they still apply for the university? Do they come through you? What are the next steps?
Accommodation, you would generally just go through what your university as a kind of normal kind of master's student would do. We do have partnerships with a couple of like private accommodation providers. For instance, Good Enough College in London is a partner of ours, and they provide accommodation for kind of international students. But generally speaking, we would advise that you go through the normal kind of university accommodation processes, because just to link it back to your previous question, that also is where you're going to meet the other people who are doing the same thing as you, who are going to be your friends, who are going to be your contacts. So that would very much be our advice.
Excellent. Marina, very much thanks for your time today. It's been a very, very good session. I know there's been so many questions, we can't get through to them all, unfortunately. So anyone that hasn't had a question asked or answered, we will get to you after the session, and either ourselves or someone from the Cheapening Scholarship will reach out to you. But a huge thank you, Marina. I really appreciate that, and thanks for your time today. Just before we do wrap up, just an idea about what postgrad.com offers. So as you can see here, over 10 million students have used our website to find their perfect postgraduate program, a choice of over 200 different countries for you to study at. Bear in mind, what the presentation today has just been all about coming to the UK. Think about all the different opportunities that are out there as well. Partnership with other high caliber providers such as Cheapening, as we've heard of today, and Marshall as well. The best advice on accommodation, visas, careers, English language testing and support, funding, and so much more. So head over to postgrad.com for a little bit more information. A bit of information about our £500 bursaries. Now, this will not clash with any funding that you may apply for through scholarship or anywhere else. Anybody can apply from any country, any mode of study, all over the globe. So please head over to Postgrad. We'll also send you an email with the sign-up details as well. So please head over to Postgrad if you don't receive that. But for now, a huge thank you to everybody for watching. It's been a very good session. We wish it was in better circumstances with what's happened over the last week with her Royal Highness. But hopefully we can move on this week, and then next week we have a University of Kent session as well. But for now, a huge thank you, and a huge thank you to Cheapening for helping this session take place. Take care. Bye-bye.